Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 30th?
Yes. Yes, Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy? How is this year almost over?
What? Because that's what time does. Time continues to pass no matter what you do, my friend. Like
Lies.
sand through the hourglass. So,
Welcome to
days of our
the
lives
philosophical episode of the Fantasy Footballers.
Socrates.
Socrates, yes. Are you guys doing anything for New Year's Eve?
You better believe I'm going to be at my house.
Fast asleep?
I'm going to be at my house. I'll put my kids to bed. I'll probably go to bed.
That's what it's been like for us.
I might be eating some Chinese food that night.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I might be doing that as well.
Like special or from
Like sand through the... Wait.
But I'm saying a special place, or you going to make some?
No, go out
Or
with
that's
some
a
friends
tradition.
to a tradition that I might be joining in on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
He was invited.
They only invite champs, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, once you won the title, we thought we'd bring you out for some New Year's celebration. So, welcome to the show. It is Wednesday. As I said, we've got some trivia, some news on the show today. We got the fantasy forecast for our Week 17 matchups. We're going to get into that. Got some sits of the week. It's going to be a good show. We're going to get you your Week 17 titles. I really am curious how many leagues played a Week 17. I don't have a percentage on that. I know quite a few do. We've gotten the emails from a lot of people. We've also gotten a lot of emails from Foot Clan title winners,
A lot
champions. We actually put out a shirt yesterday in case you wanted to show off your championship.
Yeah, you want a trophy shirt?
We
got
came
one.
out with a trophy
got one
shirt,
for
a
you
Foot
if you want
Clan
it.
title shirt. You can get that on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers. We'll post about it again on there. So let's just get into it, guys.
Let's do it.
Let's start this. Let's start this show. I got two pieces of fantasy trivia.
Ooh.
These get better as the year goes on. So now that we're near the end, it's kind of nice because you got to figure these out. Let's see if you get them.
I'm ready.
In standard leagues, all right, so this is me. In standard leagues, I have never eclipsed 20 points in a game this season. However, I'm a top 10 player at my position. My longest catch of the season has been 35 yards. I've only reached the 100-yard mark one time this season, and I haven't had a multi-touchdown game since 2013. Who am I?
My last chance. I don't know who it is, but I know who my answer is for sure, and I think every listener knows who my answer is.
No, I don't know who your
What?
answer is.
You should.
Should I?
Yes.
Oh,
I asked last week.
oh, okay. I know where
This
you're
sounds
going.
like him. Do you have a guess?
My guess would be, it's a tight end. It would be my guess. I don't have let me have that little sheet there.
Here's your little sheet.
Throw out your guess.
My guess is finally the man, the myth, the legend, the answer to every question, Eric Decker.
has only been 35 years. I don't think there's any possible way this is Eric Decker.
The 35 yards was the thing that threw me off, but I'm pretty confident that he's only had 100 yards.
Would you like me to give you the answer?
If it's Eric Decker, I sure would.
The answer is Eric Decker.
Oh, really?
Yes. Eric Decker has
35
finally.
yards?
That is his longest catch of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That is
So finally, I mean, what a season for Eric Decker. He is just tried and true. He reminds me of, the kind of consistency you used to see from like an Anquan Bolden when he was running alongside Larry Fitzgerald.
I believe on our main sleeper show before the draft, our last sleeper show, he was your number one pick.
Oh, man. I
So-
loved him. But, I mean,
Very good.
just like everyone saw coming at the beginning of the season, the high-powered Jets offense was going to produce two top 10 wide receivers.
We thought
We
that
saw
once
that coming.
Geno Smith went down. All right, last one for you. 2015 has not been my best fantasy season. I started off really hot, proving why fantasy owners took me as the 8th player off the board at my position. Then I became ice cold, only eclipsing 75 yards twice since week 4. And in standard leagues, I'm not even a number 1 receiver on my team anymore. I had more touchdowns in week 3 than I had in my last 12 games combined. Who am I?
Ooh.
Easy peasy.
Jason is good at this game.
My brain is it was one of those nights.
Yeah,
everybody
you did mention that.
With the kids, it was one of those nights, so the brain is not firing at maximum capacity.
I'll give you a hint.
Not for especially not for trivia right now.
The reason this is so easy to me is because he is on my roster in our league of record. Still, I didn't drop him. I wanted to. I thought about it.
Oh,
but
okay.
he's still there.
The great mystery that is
it so Randall Cobb?
Is Randall Cobb.
I remember the 3-touchdown game, and I was like, yeah, this guy's got to be great.
Randall Cobb is somebody that we've debated a lot in the studio in terms of what is he now? What will he be when Jordy Nelson returns? It's been a disappointing year for him. Obviously, the opportunity seemed like it was right in front of him. This is an offense that's always been a buzzsaw. We didn't see Aaron Rodgers having career lows across the board. But he did.
Right.
And now Randall Cobb doesn't seem to be able to get the separation he had been getting, or maybe he's getting more defensive coverage than we are giving him credit for. Either way, he's just not been involved. He's not been a core part of the offense, and he certainly hasn't put up – he had one big game in week 3, I think it was, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big endorsement of Jordy Nelson being great and being a great part of that offense and what really makes a move.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Do you think that's the – I mean, like
that's what
percentage-wise, what percentage do you give to Jordy Nelson being gone as to why they've struggled?
I would put a gigantic portion.
Yeah, what the number that came to my head was 80%. I thought it early on in the year. This is why about halfway through the year, I said the reason that their offense is struggling is because Devontae Adams stinks. Because it seems to me that what they are lacking is a true wide receiver one. They don't have a number one wide receiver, and that team needs it.
You know who hasn't had one in a long time?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, well.
You think Tom Brady, he's never had those weapons.
Different style
Well, Tom
of
Brady
offense.
doesn't have a wide receiver one, but Tom Brady has Rob Gronkowski. I mean, you saw what happened to the
Aaron
offense.
Rodgers has Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb is not Gronkowski. Randall Cobb is not a guy who by himself can take over a game.
What I don't want to do is I don't want to scapegoat the situation and take away responsibility from, Eddie Lacy was a part of this problem.
Sure.
Not being the guy all year long that was consistent and being, providing some play action passes and some, consistency at that position. But Rodgers hasn't been very good. I know the line's been bad, but he's been skittish in the pocket. His accuracy percentage has been way down.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that type of an impact when guys go down in New England. Tom Brady doesn't go out there and throw 20% worse in terms of completion percentage.
True, but there's clearly a lull in Brady's numbers when Gronk is out of the game.
Yes, there is. But not his productivity as a quarterback for the team. They win games still.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are in the playoffs and have won plenty of games this year.
I'm not trying to say Aaron Rodgers isn't a great quarterback. I'm just curious about the situation there and just want to make sure we're seeing something from Aaron Rodgers fantasy-wise that is going to be interesting for next year at a minimum for fantasy owners, right? Because you're going to go into the season, Jordy Nelson will be back, they'll have made changes, and then what do we do with him?
For
Aaron Rodgers. I
still take him.
Yeah, I take him. I think put it this way: when we're putting together our lists of where the quarterbacks are, I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be my number one quarterback next year.
Yeah, he'll still be a top 3.
He's going to pass Cam Newton. He's going to pass Carson Palmer, who's going to come back into the same offense.
Yeah, I think so. It's too early to tell for sure.
See,
but I think
that is 100% then, what is that? Seniority to me.
Yeah,
fantasy seniority where he has. But this is what we didn't want people to do with luck. But Rodgers obviously has a much more sustainable pattern of success.
His track record and the year after year after year success, and then losing your number one wide receiver, and then basically he's fallen to what, like the 6th best quarterback this year. I mean, we look at him right now like he's garbage.
No, not at all.
Because
not at all.
I do. I mean, I'm just saying by comparison of draft position and past and history, I just don't think it's going to stick here for Aaron Rodgers.
He's 7 in our league format, so 6 points per touchdown.
He's 6 in standard.
Okay, So the guys ahead of him right now are, you guys tell me,
Carson
just projecting to next year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cam Newton.
Cam's going to be super high.
Okay, but Tom Brady, you would take Rodgers over Brady. You guys both answer this.
I probably will.
Rodgers over Brady. Russell Wilson.
Definitely take Rodgers.
Yeah, I'll take him over
Russell
Russell.
Blake Bortles.
Yeah,
Rodgers.
Blake Bortles will be.
And then-
Blake Bortles is going to be very interesting just to see where he gets drafted at all.
Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
Same
To-
type
to-
of a thing.
To me, I feel like Tom Brady, Cam Newton, and Aaron Rodgers. Those are the three guys that will. One of those three is going to be my number one quarterback
I would
next
take
year.
all five. The only one out of those five I would not take above Aaron Rodgers is probably Blake Bortles, because that one doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, you put a weapon back on Rodgers' team. He still had a couple huge games this year, but then you take those out and you're like, okay, you get rid of a 47 and a 44, because that kind of represents the
Right.
consistency week to week. Just hasn't been it. You know, they have
Yeah.
off years. Peyton's done the same thing. He bounces, comes off a 50 touchdown season to 29, and then he's back up the next year. Brady's done that too. He's not always been fantasy relevant. So Rodgers is obviously an incredible quarterback, and he's been very consistent. So he'll be at that top echelon. But interesting discussion I didn't see coming there. So let's go ahead and move on.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, the big news.
Time for more interesting discussion.
Chip Kelly's gone. Sayonara.
Goodbye, Chip Kelly. You burned
Does that
bright.
mean that we no longer have to have that time to next play little graphic that's up on the screen constantly and when the Eagles are in prime time?
They won't know what to do with that game this week.
Well, that's going to be interesting.
And speaking of that, I would say that I don't know what to do with the offense. I'm guessing it's going to be pretty much the same offense for the final week. But Sam Bradford was my start of the week. And if you're in a championship game in week 17, I would
Stream
rather
of the week.
Stream of the week, thank you. As my streamer, I would rather probably go with one of your guys' streams, just because there's the chance that they come out here and say, hey, we're a running team. I mean, you just don't know, and I don't want to take that gamble and that risk in a championship match.
I
It does
agree with
make
that.
me more confident in my start of the week this week and the New York Giants offense in general. There's, now even more of a unsettled situation on a defense that was terrible anyway.
The only counter argument I'll give to that is the hoorah of the coach firing. We saw it happen with Miami this year, where a team that had been horrific, they fire their coach for 2 games. Miami came out like full gangbusters.
This is such a different situation. This is
I
week 17.
I completely
the
agree.
season's over.
And the players were, there were a lot
This
of
game's in New York.
a lot of reports talking about the players being very upset and pissed and angry at this firing. So it's not the same.
I say I'm reading about players who they don't like Chip Kelly.
So you're reading about
So
DeMarcus
There's
Murray.
nothing to hoorah for anymore. This season's over.
Yeah.
And it's been said that Chip Kelly wanted to retain personnel control, and that Laurie balked at that, and essentially 2 egos knocked together in a room, and Kelly got fired. Is it the right move? Is it the wrong move? I don't know. He certainly made personnel decisions that were very questionable and did not come to fruition this year in a positive way. So did they give him enough time? Who knows? That could be debated forever. The truth of the matter is all of the I don't even know the right word for it, but all of the polish that comes with being in a Chip Kelly offense is now gone from those players heading into next year, because Chip Kelly's not going to be there. It's not going to be this we get off 20 more plays than everybody else per game situation. So, we'll find out. We'll know a lot more when they hire somebody and when they set an offense in place, and whether Bradford comes back. And like I said before the show, I think DeMarco Murray is there.
Yeah,
I think
that's
he's
the
there, and
quick
he's going to
take.
get the rock next
The
year.
quick take for me is that Sam Bradford, I say the quick gut reaction is Sam Bradford will not be there. He will leave, and DeMarco Murray will still be there in Philadelphia, where it was looking more and more like he would be shipped out. I think he will be there, and they will find a play caller who suits what DeMarco can do more.
All right, I'm going to shoot through the rest of this news. You guys jump in where you think a comment is relevant.
Okay.
All right. Jonathan Stewart is not practicing on Wednesday.
It's not a good sign for the weekend.
Alshon Jeffrey, everybody's favorite
Soft tissue.
groin injury, hamstring pull. He's on IR now.
That's not good for Alshon Jeffrey's fantasy production this week.
Probably not going to do well this week. So I like Zach Miller a lot to pick up the slack. Once again, a great tight end start. Bills placed tight end Charles Clay on IR as well. Very disappointing season for a guy that's getting paid as a tight end 1, like a lot of money.
It's very scientific.
Yeah, I mean he's being paid
Yes, he is.
like a 1.
Yeah.
He has more guaranteed money than almost any tight end.
Yeah, I believe I had read he's of any tight end who's not on a rookie contract, he is making the most per game or so.
So they need to use him better. He's not a bad player. They just did not
Correct.
use him correctly.
Yeah.
All right. The Colts have signed Josh Freeman and Ryan Lindley, everybody's playoff darling from – oh, wait. No, that was bad.
I'm looking into the future. Injuries that are going to happen this week.
Who do you think are some possible players that might get injured this week?
I think that Josh Freeman is staring at an injury coming
What about Ryan Lindley?
And Ryan Lindley is also
He's somebody –
he's about a week away
whoever
from a
gets
concussion.
to play for the Colts is gonna get hurt
because
That's
of the tissue paper offensive line.
because they can't protect the quarterback.
And what this says clearly is that Andrew Luck will not be ready. So if you grabbed him off of waivers, like I said yesterday, it's probably safe to drop him now.
So who do you want? Who would you rather watch this week? Would you rather it be Josh Freeman or Ryan Lindley?
Matt Hasselbeck.
No,
don't do
no.
it. Don't.
No,
Come
I'm talking.
on.
This
he
is
has a
purely-
wife and children.
This is purely from the perspective of it's going to be a total disaster. So
I'd like to see Josh Freeman back in the NFL, and I would also just reemphasize that the Titans are a wonderful defensive play this week. Like we mentioned yesterday, this thing is going to be a problem.
Do you remember when Josh Freeman, he got cut in Tampa Bay, he got picked up by Minnesota, and Minnesota was having their quarterback shuffle, and they threw him out there where he had no time to learn the playbook, yet they still called about 40 pass plays when they had Adrian Peterson. Clearly, I'm still salty about that game, but it was
one game. He was 20 for 53,
Wow.
which is 37% passing with 1 interception and a total of 190 yards and no touchdown.
I am pretty confident that was a primetime game.
He is
It
my
was.
sit of the week.
And it was so bad.
It was tough. All right, the Jags have confirmed that Gus Bradley will return for a 4th season in 2016.
Gus.
Gus Bradley, water bet 8-8 or better next year. Jason, would you like to take that?
I would
What?
not like to take that bet.
Wow.
It's way too early to
Wow.
tell. The Jags are on the way up.
They are on the way up.
I do think they're on the way
Okay,
up.
so that's good.
Well,
You
how many games did they win last year?
love-
Was it 5 or less?
I don't remember.
Because then technically they are on the way up.
Yeah, exactly. I like Gus Bradley. It's been a joke, kind of a joking conversation around the studio here about my like for Gus Bradley, despite the kind of slow ascension of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We've seen an
They're the-
offense that's been great. They
They're
need.
the tortoise. Slow and steady
Hey,
wins the race.
You remember who they get back next year? Their number.
their number one pick?
Yeah, they'll get him back on defense, and then
Fowler? Was that
yeah,
his name?
yep. Not
Oh, that's right. I completely
Dante Fowler?
forgot
yeah,
that
Dante
he
Fowler Jr. Right?
blew his knee out the first
Oh,
play
that
of
was rough.
training cramp.
Yeah, I mean,
He training cramp. He did have the cramps.
no,
It's
Dante
true.
Fowler Jr. comes back, and it was 4 days after he inked the deal. After
Yes.
they gave him a 4-year max deal after the ACL tear, he'll be back. He's had plenty of time. That's like picking up a brand new. We've seen the impact of defensive linemen, and then I don't know. I like Jacksonville.
I do too.
They're my Cinderella story.
They are a fun team to watch, and I will say this: Blake Bortles, for a second-year quarterback, I believe that he will actually trend and be a very good quarterback. That's what I think.
All right. So the
Interesting.
Bengals are hearing A.J. McCarron is day-to-day. They did an X-ray on the wrist, and it's a sprain. He is likely to play this week, and then he is likely to start the first playoff game if they don't have a bye, because they're saying Dalton could not play in the divisional round. So that's just throwing that out there. It's also good to know for A.J. Green whether they have a third stringer behind center. Drew Brees doesn't see a scenario in which he and Peyton don't return next season. for dynasty, circumstances, Brandon Cooks, those type of players.
Willie Snead even.
Willie Snead. Good to know that, or at least good to think about the fact that if Breeze is back and Peyton's back, that offense stays, I think, relevant to fantasy football. And then what's the latest with Marshawn Lynch? We didn't mention it yesterday. We should have. Marshawn Lynch.
There's talk that he could be back this weekend. My gut tells me he will not. However,
bad situation if he comes back this weekend, right?
It's a really bad situation. I mean, I know the guy's beast mode, and he does just supernatural human things that the mere mortal man cannot do. However, Marshawn Lynch he's been out of football for weeks. He is not in football shape, and he would be coming to play on the road against the Arizona Cardinals, who have a top running defense of the league. It's not a situation where I'm in my championship week. I get Lynch back. Yes, my stud is back. I'm throwing him out. I don't see a scenario where he succeeds.
What if you're somebody that's been starting Christine Michael the past week and a half?
Find someone else.
Find Rashad Jennings.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the forecast.
Fantasy Forecast.
All right, the first matchup I want to look at here is the Jaguars traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. The Texans are all but assured of that division title unless 17 ping pong balls bounce the right way for the Indianapolis Colts and Josh Freeman. So we've got a matchup that we'll see our fantasy darling Blake Bortles in. We'll see Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, who had big weeks last week. We've got Julius Thomas. What are we taking away from this game? We don't have any concerns about guys sitting here. So, is there anybody that's in debate? I guess the running back position in Jacksonville would be the most up in the air situation and circumstance we need to pay attention to.
I don't think that they're going to necessarily sit him, obviously
Yeldon.
They're not going to sit Yeldon or Robinson because of playoff implications, but as a fantasy owner, and we'll get to this in a little bit, I would sit them because the Houston Texans' run defense has just been fantastic. Now, the one question here is whether or not Houston would sit anybody. I think because it's an early game, they won't be able to. So I'm confident in being unconfident in Denard Robinson. I don't like that play.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, against Houston, I would not like to play Denard Robinson.
We do
this
expect
week.
him to be the starting running back
as of now.
the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It hasn't panned out yet for Robinson since he's gotten the opportunity, and this is a bad matchup. So I like Jason's take there.
Certainly.
As far as the guys, I mean, Bortles, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, these are pretty close to must-play guys, but you better lower your expectations. Bortles has a tendency to struggle when it's a tough matchup. I'm still playing him, and I'm still absolutely playing Allen Robinson, but all the Jaguars are guys I play every week.
Now,
but I'm
including
not
Julius Thomas.
Yeah,
because
I put
Julius
in
Thomas
that
only
list.
had 2 catches last week in that kind of great game where it looked like he would be, he's facing a defense that can't guard the tight end, and he was 2 for 12.
It's one of those situations, though, where you have to start these guys because of what they can do, but between Allen Hurns and Julius Thomas, probably only one of those guys will get it done, and you're hoping it's your guy. Yeah, but I'm still going to start both of them.
And I'm fine with Julius Thomas as well. Julius Thomas last week, one of the things that happened is there were long touchdowns. Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns.
Not red zone situation.
Exactly. And so when you get those long touchdowns, you're not really using your tight end yet. That's not the type, he had a 90-yard touchdown, Allen Robinson did, and so that takes an entire drive away and game flow away from Julius Thomas.
All right, another morning game that I'm really excited about. The Jets go to Buffalo to take on the Bills. This is an exciting game. The Jets have the playoffs on the line. They need to win. Fantasy-wise, I think the story here still needs to be the Bilal Powell, Chris Ivory discussion, because Powell now, last week on the ground, 7 carries for 56 yards. Okay, we know what he can do through the air. Last 4 weeks, 8 catches, 5 catches, 7 catches, 5 catches. He is the kind of release valve. Fitzpatrick's in trouble. the pass rush is closing in. We're going to dump it to Bilal Powell, and he's looked spry. He's at double digits in 5 of the last 6 games, and he's outperformed Chris Ivory, certainly in PPR leagues. So is he the guy that you have both on your team? You're just starting Bilal Powell now?
I have to start Bilal Powell over Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory now in 4 straight games has been disappointing. He had one decent game 3 ago, and that's his only double-digit fantasy game in the last 4 games. So coming in here, it's hard for me. If I had both of those guys, I would want to go with the guy who seems to be more involved regardless of game flow. If the game is up, he's still involved. If the game is down, he has to be involved in Bilal Powell. So Powell's the guy that I would rather play if I had both.
Yeah, the one thing that you really can't expect or hope from Powell is a multi-touchdown type of performance that you've seen a couple times from Ivory. That being said, I'm with you guys. I would start Bilal Powell. Ivory is trending down right now, and you even saw Ridley he's been worked into the mix a little bit.
And remember when we had Nick Mangold on the show early this year, how much love he gave Bilal Powell. I mean, he was saying that guy is amazing. And then we asked about Stephen Ridley, and he's like,
No, we asked about
who was
Stacy.
Oh, that's right. Zach Stacy. He's like,
he plays football too. He's on our team.
But he gave a ton of love to Bilal Powell, so that team believes in him, the players believe in him, the offensive line.
Bilal Powell, we talk all about their potential in the playoffs, the Jets. Oh, they've got Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker and Darrell Revis and this defense. It's a guy like Bilal Powell that makes a difference on those playoff teams. There are certain role player type guys that are better football players than they are fantasy football players, and I think he's one of those. Even though he's performed a little bit in fantasy, that's even better.
And the list that I talk about of names, people, you write them down right now because it's still fresh in your mind going into next year. Bilal Powell is going to be maybe not drafted or drafted very late. Chris Ivory will be the guy who's taken because people see, he finished as a top 10 running back. Bilal Powell will not do that, but he's a guy that you should take later in your draft. As of right now, team things change all the time, but he's a guy that you need to remember going into your draft next year.
Those are the guys that drop so far down, whether it's a Danny Woodhead or
exactly.
a Charles Sims or somebody who's very productive but just doesn't have the flash of being a number 1 back that can be a steal in the mid-round. So that's a great point. Now, on the other side of the ball at the running back position, I really want to know your guys' takes on that situation because Carlos Williams is going to carry the mail again, 17 for 76 and a touchdown, but now you have to face the Jets.
I was going to put Carlos Williams down as my sit of the week until I made it Robinson, just because you have Gillislee, who looks very good, who's going to be splitting carries with him against the Jets defense, which is the number 2 ranked defense in the league. That combination of things says to me I'd rather have other options. Carlos Williams is still a startable guy. He had a great game last week, so I didn't make him my sit completely. But if you have other guys, if you've got, those middling guys that aren't sexy and you don't really like the Frank Gores and Lamar Millers, I would rather play them.
Quick note, though. LeSean McCoy has not been officially ruled out of this game.
Yes.
We need to remind ourselves of that fact, despite the MCL tear. He hasn't.
Stop.
Now, Gillislee, also to your point, they're not splitting carries. Williams had twice as many carries as Gillislee last week, but Gillislee has been the kind of explosion-type guy, touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. Wide receiver-wise, I don't like Watkins. You're going to hear that later in the show, our sits of the week. Watkins is my sit because I don't like the matchup. But on the other side of the ball, you're starting Marshall, you're starting Decker.
Every week.
Nothing to debate.
Yeah, every week they are must-start guys.
Okay.
And we saw LeSean McCoy have some very solid success against this team, against the Jets, when they played earlier in the year. Now, so that's something that people might look to and say, the Buffalo, maybe they can still have success. Carlos Williams does not run like LeSean McCoy. Shady is agile and a speed guy to the edge, and that's how he got it done. So I'm not sure that Carlos can have that type of success.
Quarterbacks in this game, Ryan Fitzpatrick. What are you doing with him?
I like Ryan Fitzpatrick a lot. In this game, he is stream-worthy. He is start-worthy. I think he's going to be a quarterback 1 this week and is absolutely fine to play. The Bills' defense, especially through the air, does not scare me. When you've got those weapons, it's almost a guarantee that he's going to throw 2 touchdowns, right? Because Brandon Marshall's got to get his, and Eric Decker's got to get his.
I think they've done that together something like 10 times this year,
it's
something ridiculous.
Absurd. Eric Decker has not caught a touchdown in 3 games on the year. The entire year, there's only been 3 games where he hasn't caught his obligatory 1 touchdown.
Hey, he took it to the very end last week, too. The last play of the game in overtime.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at Fitzpatrick. Let's see. In the last 6 weeks, in the last 5 weeks, he only has a 1 single touchdown game.
He's played great. Now, on the other side, Tyrod Taylor, what are your thoughts in this game? Stay away?
Yeah. There's probably a better streaming option.
That's my feeling.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't like this matchup. When you take away, like you were hinting at, Andy, the number 1 option in Sammy Watkins, and Charles Clay is on the injured reserve, and Robert Woods is on the injured reserve, what are you going to do against a great Jets defense? I mean, you never know with a guy that can scramble like that. He can make plays out of nothing, and he could end up with a good week. But before, when we don't have revisionist history and we're trying to predict these things, you cannot say Tyrod Taylor's a good play for this upcoming week. There's everything stacked
There's no
against
argument for that. Yeah. The Redskins, let's move on. The Redskins go to Dallas to take on the Cowboys and Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Well, the Redskins, however, have locked everything up. And so the truth is you can't start a Redskin this week unless you're talking about somebody down the depth chart. A Jamison Crowder could be a PPR guy this week, in my opinion, because you're going to see Deshaun Jackson and Garcon probably off the field. Jamison Crowder could be the guy that comes in, and Clay Aikens is. I said Clay Aiken again.
That's delightful.
Kamar,
you meant Ruben stuttered.
Kamar Aikens his way.
If I were invisible.
Oh my God. I don't remember even when the weird Clay Aiken, Kamar Aiken joke happened. I think it was Twitter between me and some listener.
Because I have not heard this joke.
Yeah. Me and a listener were joking around about Clay Aiken and Kamar Aiken, and now it has come out in the way that things come out on the show.
Classic Andy.
I speak too fast. All right, so Jamison Crowder, I'm going to throw his name out there as one of those guys that I think if you needed to get crazy, because in Week 17 you're required to start somebody strange, then Jamison Crowder's the guy.
Would you start Clay Aiken?
Clay Aiken, he can't press coverage problem.
Yeah.
Problems with
serious problem.
Press coverage.
Pretty much guaranteed concussion.
Yeah, he's got issues. All right.
This is when the world goes haywire, and all of a sudden Clay Aiken is singing the national anthem at that game.
Yes.
and our brains explode.
Yes. Let's hope for that. All right. What do we do with Darren McFadden in this game against the Redskins? I kind of like him.
Oh yeah. McFadden has turned back the clock.
The hands of time.
And he has been.
If I could turn back time.
We have lost complete control of this show. But McFadden, the Washington is not a very good run defense to start. McFadden has been great. The Washington defense, I'm sure, that will have some starters rested. And so I think McFadden is a very solid play.
All right. I don't really want to talk about this game anymore.
Yeah, I do like the Cowboys defense in this game.
That's a very good point because they've been stout against good teams, and now they might be facing.
So,
they're at home. They're facing a team that might be.
Put it this way:
guys.
the Cowboys are favored.
I was going to say the Cowboys are going to win
Vegas.
They're going to win this game.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense is very good.
And for Washington, nothing has been officially declared yet of guys who are sitting. Let's say they get crazy and they say, "Oh, we're going to play our guys for a half or whatever." I'd probably still play Jordan Reed if they say he's going to play for a half, because I'd rather play him for a half than
that's that
than
real
Joe Schmo.
The sad, disheartening part of, we don't want to come on here and disparage your league for playing in Week 17, but we certainly recommend, and you would have heard it in the beginning of the season, to play to Week 16. This is why you play a whole season with Jordan Reed on your team. You should get to use him.
Yeah. And I disagree that I'm fine disparaging those leagues. I think I would do a public service announcement and say, for next year, change your league. You're listening. You're realizing as you Google for information this week, oh, there's not a whole lot of information out there. Oh, places have stopped doing fantasy football. They're shut down because last week is the week that should be the championship.
All right. Well, there you go. This next matchup, the Steelers go to Cleveland to take on the Browns in my...
What?
Andy's almost upset of the week.
What?
Get ready for the divisional matchup of Johnny Manziel and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, the Steelers' season is on the line, but
I can't even talk right now.
I didn't want to watch this game, and now that's the only game I want to watch. I got to see how the Browns do it.
Mike Pettin set to remain head coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Allegedly.
The Browns, again, they competed with the Seahawks in Seattle. This is a chance for them to keep a division rival from the playoffs. I don't think the line is right. We'll find out. But right now, the Browns
It's in Cleveland, right?
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
it is. So
Okay.
Big Ben on the road.
It's in Cleveland, Big Ben on the road. It doesn't mean that I'm going to, disparage the fantasy potential of Big Ben and Antonio Brown. And
Okay, let me ask you this because I almost asked it earlier. Big Ben on the road against a great matchup for the Browns, or Blake Bortles, because we had so many of those questions. So many rosters have those two guys on it. Or
That's
Big
a
Ben or
great-
Blake
great
Bortles.
question.
Or this week, Blake
Give
Bortles
me-
on the road in a terrible matchup.
Yes,
I will
that's-
go with Big
I'll
Ben.
go with Big Ben.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure here.
No, it's a great point because last week Blake Bortles was great
It-
and Big
don't-
Ben's numbers were horrible, and so you look at those, you go, I just got to play Bortles.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to avoid is chasing those points.
Yes, I agree. So fantasy wise, we talked about Isaiah Crowell as he's gotten some carries lately. Would you start Crowell over Carlos Williams?
Both bad matchups, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
No. I think Carlos is the better guy. So in bad matchups, I'll go with Carlos.
And so on the other side, D'Angelo Williams, you're starting him. That's done.
Yep.
A done deal.
Yep.
You're not starting a wide receiver, a pass catcher from Cleveland other than Gary Barnidge.
That would be correct.
And then on the other side of the ball, I have no confidence in Heath Miller. I don't think anybody's wanting to roll him out there. They might see the matchup and say, oh, okay, the Browns aren't great against the pass. I don't like Heath Miller. He's had pretty much 3 straight weeks that are disappointing. So, he had that 11 catch week that made me think, okay, maybe they're going to start using him. Big Ben's back. It didn't happen, so no reason to roll him out there with better flex or streaming options at tight end. Martavis Bryant, does he fix what was going on this week?
Yeah, I think he does fix it. He's been pretty solid all year, and this last game wasn't his game. Players have that. This last game wasn't Big Ben's game. That they struggled entirely. Antonio Brown didn't have a good game. I think Martavis Bryant, clearly he was terrible this last week, but I think that the Steelers fix it. They need this game to get into the playoffs. I don't have this as my almost upset of the week. I think that this is against a team that is not as good. The Browns just can't hang with them. They have to get it done. So I'm fine with Bryant.
How good are the Ravens? How good are the Ravens?
They're better than the Browns.
Are they?
I would say they're better than Browns. Yes.
Okay. Is that because they beat the Steelers last week?
No, before then, I would say they've been close. The reason that they've been such a good fantasy defense to play against is because they've been close in so many games.
I would agree that the Ravens are better than the Browns.
Yeah.
And they're better coached.
Yeah.
For a big game, a divisional game. That being said, the Steelers, with their season kind of on the line last week, lost to a 5-win team, which was a 4-win team at the time.
And I think that that's part of what plays into them coming out gangbusters this week.
You could be absolutely right, and that is why it is my almost upset.
Yeah, I like the almost part. I think the game is closer than people think. I believe the Steelers will get it done, but
as do I.
But I don't think it's going to be just a shutout.
All right. This game, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be watching 1 minute of it.
Come on.
We don't have a lot of analysis to do next week.
You know why I'll watch this one is if all those 11 other things look like they're about to happen, then maybe I'll flip over to the Titans and the Colts, Mettenberger and Freeman.
/ Lindley.
/ Lindley.
/ McGee.
I mean,
what's his
okay,
name?
Let's just say this. This is how I want to cover this game. Tell me who's fantasy relevant. Name them.
Frank Gore is fantasy relevant for sure. I think he's going to be fine this game. He has been extremely consistent this year.
He's been extremely fine.
He has been extremely fine. And
that's the truth.
he's a guy that, as your RB2, as a flex position.
Is he Cedric Benson now?
I mean, I think he's maybe better than Cedric.
He can't just be Cedric Benson. Cedric Benson was not rattling off that 40-yard touchdown that Frank Gore knocked off last week.
Let me give you some numbers for Gore. Carry-wise, the last 4 weeks, 13, 16, 16, 15.
Love it.
He hadn't scored in 6 games, but then he got 2 touchdowns last game, which is great. Had a great game. Hasn't been in triple digits ever this year. No games with 100 yards rushing. Before this week, 34, 24, 45, 60, 44. And Tennessee's defense is 7th against running backs. I don't like Frank Gore very much this week. I don't think what do you do if you're the Titans? You stop the run and you let one of these miscellaneous quarterbacks throw the ball into the air.
I think Frank Gore has a double-digit fantasy day on those games where people stop the run. We've seen him have 5-catch games 3 times this year.
Okay.
So
he does have a baseline.
I'm confident with Frank Gore over the Carlos Williams, over
you want to water bet that one?
I would love to.
Water bet.
We needed one this week, and Carlos Williams, Frank Gore is a great bet. I like the upside of Williams more than I do Gore. So Gore is fantasy relevant. I will not argue with you there. What about Hilton?
I could not possibly
want to start him?
any Colt pass catcher.
But his name's T.Y. Hilton, Jason.
Unless Andrew Luck comes on. And the truth is, one of these guys will have a decent fantasy game. Because at the end of the game, they're going to have 250 yards probably.
I don't know.
200 yards?
No.
190?
What was that stat line of Josh Freeman? 20?
Well, it took 50-some-odd throws to get 190 yards.
Last week, Hilton had 4 catches. Moncrief had 2 catches.
Yeah.
I mean, for 15 yards. So I think you stay away from the Colts. I don't think there's anybody on the other side of the ball that you want to start other than Delaney Walker.
Well, Walker, and I'm okay. I am okay this week. If you want to roll those
Green
dice
Beckham?
on Dorial Green Beckham.
He'd be the only one to roll the dice with.
Correct. But the Colts passing defense, 28th as far as yardage
But
allowed.
Green Beckham had
I know.
no catches last week.
I know.
0.
I know these things can happen. That's why it's you rolling the dice. Sometimes you hit snake eyes.
I will avoid the dice roll on Dorial Green Beckham.
Yeah, I will as well.
All right, the Patriots take on the Dolphins. This is not an almost upset of the week potential for me. The Patriots trying to lock up home field throughout the playoffs. Brady, he's in your lineup. Tannehill, he's out of your lineup.
I love the Patriots' defense this week. I really do. I think in a division matchup, they know the Dolphins well, and I'm fine playing the Patriots' defense. The Dolphins have been one of the worst teams against fantasy defenses this year.
Yes, they have, and I have no confidence in Lamar Miller. He's my sit of the week coming up here. Nobody I want to play on that team other than maybe Landry for the PPR.
Gotta play Landry.
PPR value. So, do we really know what's going on in the wide receiver core for New England right now?
We do not. We don't have injury updates yet for Edelman or Amendola.
We thought there's a chance Edelman would play this week due to the preparation for the playoffs. He hasn't played since week 10.
If he plays, though, it's going to be very limited, and he's not a guy I'm going to throw out in championship week.
Yeah, and the same goes for – I really like Martin. I think Martin could have a very good high
You
potential.
like Keyshawn Martin.
I like Keyshawn Martin.
In the event Edelman, Amendola are gone.
Correct. But I probably couldn't get myself to start him on a championship week. So it's kind of irrelevant advice. It's wait and see, look towards the future, see if Keyshawn Martin can do anything. He has an opportunity this game.
Keyshawn Martin against the Dolphins or Tyler Lockett against the Cardinals?
I would probably go
Martin.
Keyshawn Martin.
Martin.
Okay, there you go. So there you would start him if that was your boat.
Yep.
There are a lot of people that were starting Lockett in flex positions this past week, so Martin could be flexed in that situation.
What about Devontae Parker across the field?
I would play Parker over.
I would as well.
Or over
Keyshawn Martin.
What about James White? Is he a must start now?
James White, I believe, is a must start if you're in any kind of PPR league.
Yep, and if you're flexing between Martin and White, you flex White.
Yep.
All right, the Ravens head to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. This is another game that the Bengals are favored by 7.5, and I think the Ravens win the game. I can't hit the button twice, but I think the Ravens are going to win the game.
You can have 2 almost upsets.
Andy's almost upset of the week.
McCarron is banged up. The Ravens are well coached. We saw it last week. Yes, the game's in Cincinnati, and that's why the line is where it's at. I think it'll be pretty close again. Ryan Mallett, got to get on that train. I mean, he might miss the train, but you got to get on it.
As far as his alarm clock will
Correct.
not go off.
That is correct. Some of these quarterback matchups, you look at 2 or 3 times to make sure you're reading it right. Mallett, McCarron.
Yeah. Or it could be, I'm looking it up
Freeman
right now.
and Mettenberger.
Keith Wenning, I'm seeing from.
You're saying as a third string
is
in
the
Cincinnati?
third string.
He
I'm
is.
looking at a depth chart here.
Sounds like a winner.
Good luck.
So here's one thing that's interesting about the Bengals. We saw they came out. We talked about this yesterday. A.J. McCarron came out, looked really good in the beginning, scripted out a bunch of plays. You know who else looked good with him? A.J. Green. All of A.J. Green's production, I believe, happened in the first half. I don't think he caught a pass in the second half.
The bulk, for sure.
So how confident – now, we didn't see him get injured. So A.J. Green this week, you're kind of rolling him out there, aren't you? I mean, the Ravens' pass defense is 17th in the league against fantasy wide receivers.
He got hurt on the last play of the game.
McCarron did.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking about A.J. Green.
Oh, right.
So A.J. Green.
Yeah.
A.J. Green's a great start in this matchup for sure.
Okay. What about Kamar Aiken?
Clay's brother.
Meh.
Yeah. I mean, brother from another mother.
Sure.
Clearly.
Sure.
I'd start him.
I think he's in that conversation. I would rather start Kamar Aiken than Lockett this week. He is the clear number 1 target on their team, which is
8 catches 2 straight weeks.
Exactly. So Kamar Aiken is a guy I'm not in love with, but I would probably start him over most of those guys we just talked about. I would definitely start him over Keyshawn Martin. I would start him over Lockett.
Is there anything else at the wide receiver position you guys want to discuss about this matchup?
Not really. The one that sticks out to me player-wise in this game is Jeremy Hill. The Ravens have a decent pass defense, or rush defense, but they're not as good as the Broncos that the Bengals just faced. And we have back-to-back weeks where Jeremy Hill has gotten the ball 19 times. With McCarron in and now injured a little bit, this is going to be. I mean, they're not trying to mask things. They're not trying to say, we're going to come out and confuse them with our scheme. They're saying, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to try to run it right up the middle.
And you stop me.
And you stop me.
Over-under in this game is 42.5, and I would take the under.
Yeah,
Put it that way. So that lends
doubt
itself to Jeremy Hill getting the ball a little bit more than normal.
Yeah, and he always has the chance to punch in a touchdown or 2, depending on when guys get
Goal line.
tackled at the 1.
What happened to Gio?
They just honestly,
Andy Dalton.
I believe that completely. I think,
but it wasn't.
Dalton,
It wasn't just Andy Dalton. I mean, his production has really disappeared since since the Ram game. He had a huge game against the Cardinals. Then he had a decent game against the Rams. I guess basically just one 45-yard catch was his entire production. But since then, they're not using him. He's not been effective. It's a strange situation.
It is a little strange, but I think it speaks again to Jeremy Hill being the guy who's going to get a ton of rushes this week. And I like Jeremy Hill this week. I would have confidence starting him in a championship matchup.
Well, that's something we have not said very much this week or this year.
It's got some news from where is that from?
Hold on, is that
Bleacher Report?
Is it breaking news?
Well, no. It just talks about what we talked about earlier about Chip Kelly possibly, wanting to go to the Titans,
right?
With the Dolphins and the Browns interested in him
I
as
would
well.
love that. And I will say this: if he goes to the Titans, I saw a ton of questions on Twitter. How high does this move Mariota? It's going to move Mariota too high is the answer. He's going to be overloved. I think he's going to be decent, but his value, I think, will shoot up more.
I think all 3 of those quarterbacks, Mariota, Johnny Manziel, if he's still in Cleveland, and then even Ryan Tannehill, all could pull off that offense well. Tannehill runs the ball well. Obviously, we know what Mariota did with Chip Kelly in Oregon. And then Johnny Manziel is a quarterback that can execute that offense as well. So it'd be interesting to see him go any of those places. Josh Gordon's back next year.
Yeah.
For Cleveland. And so you mix Manziel, Gordon, and Cleveland's right behind Jacksonville on a team that wants to be my Cinderella year after year. I'm not projecting it next year like I was in the past with Cleveland, but I want to see those teams have some success and get back into the mix. And some of the pieces are there, some aren't, but we saw Cleveland succeed a lot with Josh Gordon.
Chip Kelly going to Tennessee would be fantastic, I think. I mean, it's the situation of
They've got a defense that's okay.
Well, but I'm saying the best part for me of Mariota, where you think he's going to be overhyped, probably. He probably will be overhyped. But the nice part is it's not like Sam Bradford this year. He doesn't have to learn it. He played with Chip Kelly.
And he's young, and he has the tools, and we've seen – I think he's a better – more accurate passer than what we've seen out of Sam Bradford this year. We saw more out of Mariota's arm, in my opinion. Now, let's go ahead and get into the last matchup.
Before that, we need to really quickly talk about Buck Allen.
Yes.
Oh,
Because
I'm sorry.
What do you make about Buck Allen? He's been great, high baseline, and then doesn't show up or fumbles and gets benched. I had said last game that after that fumble against Kansas City, he was going to come back, have a good game against Pittsburgh. He did. He had 5 catches. He also had how many carries on the ground? 18.
I hate him this week.
You hate him this week?
Hate him this week.
Because of the Bengals only?
Hate him. He's in Cincinnati. Hate him.
I think he's still got a decent enough baseline.
Yeah, I would still play him.
That baseline the weeks before, the last two, was...
Well, he got benched in Kansas City because he fumbled. So, yeah, and the week before against Seattle, he had a terrible game.
If the potential to be fumbling and benched exists in his repertoire along with the low games, hate is too strong a word because of the dump-off passes we saw with Mallet last week. I don't love it. Okay, I don't like the matchup. That'd be fair.
I don't like the matchup, but I would still play him.
Over who?
Let's
go back to that Carlos Williams
I would start Carlos Williams.
I would depending on your scoring format, but if you're in half or full, I'm going to play Buck Allen over Carlos.
Yeah, I would as well because I think the Jets are a worse matchup here.
You want to water bet Buck in our format? All right.
Water bet.
Okay.
I've suddenly
Someone
become a
is
big
rooting
Carlos
Williams, which stinks too because I really hope the Jets win this week. Sorry, Bills fans. I like the Jets. I like the players and the people there. I've got an affinity for Todd Bowles, and I want him to make the playoffs.
What do you got against all the people that live in Buffalo and then their team?
It snows there.
Yeah, it doesn't snow for the Jets.
Oh, I was just throwing something out.
No, I actually really like Buffalo Bills fans.
They make great wings.
Yes.
That's not how that works, Mike. All right. Saints at Atlanta. The Breeze-Ryan battle. I said it yesterday. I like Ryan as kind of my streaming option this week. He was barely started last week. Obviously understandable facing Carolina. This week he gets the Saints and that beautiful, beautiful fantasy defense. All right. So who else do we Tim Hightower, love him this week. What do you think of Devontae Freeman? You got to roll him out.
Start everybody.
Everybody in this game is the answer.
Everybody,
yes.
Fantasy Bonanza?
Fantasy Bonanza. I love everyone. The only question that you have here, right? Start Snead. Start Cooks. Start Hightower. Start Breeze. Start
What about
Ryan,
Julio Jones?
Start Freeman. Start Julio Jones. The question to me is Ben Watson?
I'd start Ben Watson.
Yeah, you got to start him. He took a metaphorical poop in his pants last week, but it's a matter of points. Points will be scored in this game.
There will be points.
Yes. Yeah, so you want a chip in there.
52.5
I was
point
gonna say,
over-under
this has
is a lot of points.
One of the highest over-unders I have seen all year.
It's fantastic. I want in.
I agree, and the Saints have proven these games happen to. I mean, those type of the Giants earlier in the year. You remember the Eli Manning, Drew Brees,
6 and 7 touchdowns each quarterback.
I mean, these type of games have happened over and over again with the Saints. This game's in Atlanta. Weather's not an issue. This is just going to be let's lace them up and throw the ball.
I also think this is going to be a game that helps cement Devonta Freeman's claim to that number 1 running back on the year. I think he's going to have a huge game.
Yeah, he looked pretty good last week to my eyeballs. So let's move on.
Oh, no.
Sense of the week.
Mike,
I don't know how I forget
this is
that.
your full-time job, and you haven't corrected that drop.
Yeah.
Where is thy diligence? We want to know. And don't blame your child.
Don't blame Azeroth.
Don't blame any of it.
I would never do that.
Oh, okay.
It's I have nothing.
All right.
I have no excuse.
All right.
I apologize.
All right. I'll just move on.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
sits of the week. Let's start at the quarterback position. Mike, why don't you kick it off? Give us somebody that we can put on our bench.
I'm sitting Derek Carr this week. He plays against the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs are allowing pretty much 10 points a game over the last month. It's just not a situation where I want to play. I'm not playing guys against them. So, and Derek Carr he's had some late season struggles going on. Amari Cooper seems to have hit a little bit of a rookie wall here, and he's also banged up. So I'm not playing Derek Carr.
All right, Jason, you're up.
What are these
All
laughs
right.
about? Oh,
This is what it is. My sit of the week to end the year.
Hold on.
It is not honorary. My sit
It's legitimate.
of the week is a legitimate Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. Sorry.
You are dancing
I am
with
dancing,
the devil.
I'm
we
dancing
both
with
did
the devil.
that.
Yeah.
He never really
I
did
never
it, right?
really did it. Now, Andy and Mike started Russell Wilson's crazy
Oh,
barrage
yes.
of great fantasy points by putting Russell Wilson as their sit of the week. And Andy told Mike the next week, well, I'm going to show you how it's really done. And Russell went on fire. That's why Russell Wilson, since that time, has been our honorary sit of the week. But I'm going to show both of you guys how it's really
How
done.
do you really sit
Russell Wilson has not thrown for less than 2 touchdowns in 8 weeks. And do you want to know who the team was 8 weeks ago? It was the Arizona Cardinals, who he's facing now not at home, but on the road in Arizona against a team where Bruce Arians wants to win, has to win, needs to win, wants that home field against Carolina should Carolina falter. I think our defense comes out great, comes gangbusters. I don't see Russell Wilson putting up, his 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So to me, I think there are better options this week, and I'm getting off of I'm going to sit Russell Wilson.
All right, I'm
It's bold.
going to take the softball at the quarterback position and sit down Phillip Rivers. If you're in a 12, 14-team league, you're tempted to start Phillip Rivers in
That's
the
a
final
hot take,
game.
Andy.
I'm going to bench him against Denver, find another option. Yes, his name's Phillip Rivers. Yes, he's owned and started in too many leagues, but don't do it this week. And I'm going to quickly move on to my running back sit of the week. It's Lamar Miller. No, thank you. New England's got the 9th best defense against fantasy running backs. You mix in the variables of what types of carries, or rather how many carries Lamar Miller will get, the opportunities. I don't like it. New England needs to win. New England's got a good defense. Sit him down.
I'm in my sit. This is really more of a gut check hunch type of a situation. I'm sitting Matt Forte. They're playing against the Lions, who the defense of Detroit has been better. But where my concern is, it's the last game of the week, or the last game of the season for Chicago. It looks like they're prepping Jeremy Langford to be the workhorse next year. Matt Forte got a little bit banged up, but since Matt Forte came back 2 of the last 3 weeks, Langford out-touched him. So
you didn't even mention Kadeem Carey vulturing 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that happened as well. So with the team clearly not looking to give Matt Forte the kind of money that he's going to want, what reason do they really have to play him this week when this is their last chance to say before the offseason to say, can Langford be our guy?
So if you're the Forte owner and you got Forte and Langford,
I'm going to play Langford.
I like that.
Don't you think the usage of Kadeem Carey is indicative of their plan for next year? The fact they're trying to get him more
Forte
work
and
to
number
be
two.
the number 2 type guy on that roster next year, or at least compete for it.
Yeah.
I like that sit. I really don't think you're going out on a crazy limb there. I think it's okay. Again, this is all contextual, right? If you have somebody on your team that is not comparable to Matt Forte, even if he has a bad game, you got to start Matt Forte.
Correct. Yeah. If you have options in the same area as forte. I see a problem with his usage this week.
My sit of the week, I'll touch on it quickly because I mentioned it. It's Denard Robinson. He has been okay in relief of T.J. Yeldon, but he's been okay against Indianapolis, Atlanta, and New Orleans, where you expect bigger things. And now he's coming up against the Houston Texans, a great defense. I think it's possible Denard catches something through the air that can go a long way, but I don't think he's going to get it done on the ground. I'm not loving him. I would rather start other guys again, like a Frank Gore over Denard Robinson. At wide receiver, I'll move on for us and go with my boy. He was one of my most disliked players before the draft, who I ended up trading for and winning a championship with.
That's how it happens.
It is Mike Evans. Mike Evans, he is a boom or bust type of player. He is a catch or drop guy, about a 50-50 odds. And this week he is traveling to Carolina. The Josh Norman, if there's a player that I think he could shut down, it would be Mike Evans. I'm not loving him. So if you've got a good wide receiver core, I get a lot of questions of like 4 or 5 really good receivers, and Mike Evans is usually in that list. I'd probably place him on the bench this week.
Evans was 3.
Oh. Breaking news.
In case you needed a further reason to start the Tennessee Titans, Des Bryant is on IR.
Yeah.
He's been there.
But
he's getting ankle surgery.
Surgery now.
Okay.
With surgery. So
Mike Evans was 3 for 32 the last time they played Carolina, and I believe that was without Vincent Jackson as well, where we were expecting big things from him.
Yep, exactly. And last week against Chicago, only 4 for 61. I mean, it's all right, but it's not gonna win you a championship.
Yeah, I like it. I like that sit.
all right. So Mike,
who am I? Oh, my wide receiver. I am sitting down the entire Colts wide receivers again. You give me Josh Freeman. You give me Ryan Lindley. I've seen that show before. It always ends in a tragedy, a Shakespeare-level tragedy. So I'm staying clear of that.
It brings back bad memories having Ryan Lindley's name thrown out there around playoff time. All right, Sammy Watkins is my wide receiver sit of the week. I alluded to it earlier versus Revis. This year, he was 3 for 14. He had his worst game of the season. This is a game that means a ton to the Jets. I think the kind of the youth of Watkins and the pedigree of Revis, I don't think he's going to get separation this week. Revis has been playing better, obviously healthier. I don't like Sammy Watkins. Yes, I understand how that sounds. He's been really good, and he will get deep shots to him. And if he connects on one of those, he might give you an okay game because they're going to take the shots to him. I just don't like the odds of that. So if you've got a comparable option, somebody might be out there saying, hey, do I want to start Brandon Cooks or Sammy Watkins? Because Watkins has been on fire. Just start Brandon Cooks. Don't mess around with Darrelle Revis in this one. And then at the tight end position, I'm going to sit down Richard Rodgers. Ever since the miracle Hail Mary that endeared him to every fantasy owner under the sun, he's had one catch in every game. It's just not good.
Was 3 games ago.
Yeah, so 3 straight games with one catch. He's not a fantasy option at tight end. That is the end of that story. So who's your tight end sit of the week? Jason.
It's a hot take.
It's a hot take because I am going to sit the number 2 tight end on the year. I mean, that's like, what are you doing, Jason? Jason, he's the number 2 tight end. What are you doing? That's right. I'm sitting Jordan Reed. And so here's why
tell us why, Jason. We have no idea why you'd be sitting Jordan Reed.
Here's why I'm making him my sit of the week is because he will probably not play, or if he plays, he will play limited and very little. I'm worried about. You said earlier, if he gets the start, you'd play him. I'm saying I would not. If he's out there, I think he could very much end up with an honorable start. Get a drive and then be done. In which case, I'm saying plan for other options. Don't play Jordan Reed this week.
And I am going to sit again. Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He got us. He got us with the Rochambeau at the end of the game last week.
Told you how good he was.
Yeah, he's very good. It only took his second catch of the game with time expiring on a completely meaningless Hail Mary touchdown. But here's his snap counts the last 3 weeks. He came back. They ramped him up. He was at 45. Then he dropped to 37. And then he dropped to 30% of snaps last week. Things are not trending the right direction for Seferian-Jenkins. I'm not considering him this week.
I don't blame you for that. The snap counts certainly are not what you want from a tight end. You can stream somebody that plays nearly every down. Why stream a guy that's barely out there and needs to rely on basically a touchdown and 2 catches? Is
not just a touchdown, an expiring clock touchdown.
Exactly.
That doesn't matter.
Exactly. So we want to remind you, check us out on the web, thefantasyfootballers.com, on Twitter @theFFBallers. And we will also be doing a playoff challenge league and inviting everybody in. We already tweeted about it this morning. If you want to get involved in our Fantasy Footballers NFL Playoff Challenge just for some fun, play against us, we have sent out the information for that, and you can join us. We'll do that again. We'll put it on the website or something as well. So that is it.
It's on the Twitter sphere.
It's on the Twitter sphere. So that's it for today. Come back tomorrow with us as we get ready for 2016. We'll give you the rest of the matchups. We'll have some fun together. Jason will probably have his trophy, and he'll be rocking it like a baby. And so we'll be back tomorrow. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @theFFBallers.